Welcome to episode 6. In this episode, we will be making a birdhouse. This is one of the 2 projects required before you can claim the title as a woodworker. Our focus in this video will be measuring out and making bevel cuts. We will be doing 2 of them on this project. So I will show you how to quickly set up your square to make these cuts fairly quickly with a circular saw. For today's tool talk, let's talk about clamps. When it comes to woodworking, you are going to need a bajillion clamps of many different kinds. If you would like more information on clamps, I have done a video based solely on this topic. Otherwise, this would be an extremely long video. I will show you the different kinds of clamps available and my recommendation for what brand of clamps that I prefer. Link will be in the description. I have the cut list in the description. Parts A and C will have the bevel cut. If you feel confident in cutting them yourself, feel free. Otherwise, we will step through the process together. So let's get started on our birdhouse. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the bevel cut now. So what I need to do is on the front of my saw I have a knob, and this will adjust the shoe so I can make a bevel cut. I'm going to line it up so that the 45, there's an arrow right here, the 45 is right on that arrow. Now, is it a perfect 45? Probably not. Is the bird going to care once it moves in? Yeah, definitely no. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my combination square and I'm going to set it up because I want the saw to cut through the meat of the wood. I don't want to catch it right here on the tip because I won't have a solid bevel. So I'm going to set it up. I'm about 2.5 inches deep here. So once I have that set, now what I need to do is I need to have a low profile clamp. So I'm going to put this clamp on. This is a small C clamp. Now the reason I want a low profile clamp is you can see here I don't have much space when I cut through. So if I were using a clamp like this, it's going to hit. So I need a low profile clamp, so I'm using this C clamp here. Now I'm going to line it up. I'm going to make sure my blade is not touching the wood when I start my saw. And then I'm going to go ahead and make my cut. So you can see there how the saw missed this clamp right here. So I'm going to take these pieces off and I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to do the door. So I'm going to measure down. For the door, I want 5 inches. So I'm going to make my mark at 5 inches. And then it's just a matter of doing a straight cut across. And that will give you your door. So go ahead and set up the next one, which is the roof that needs a bevel cut. Do your 45, flip it over, then measure 10 inches and do your straight cut. So now that we have these pieces cut, let's go ahead and grab a piece A, which is the roof, and we're going to grab piece B, and we're going to butt it up against this 45-degree angle. Now what we want to do is we want to make a mark. This is showing us where our wall is going to end on the roof. Okay, so now we have the roof. Let's move that aside. Let's go ahead and grab our base. Now on our base, we want to determine which side we want facing out. So we're going to put that one in like this, and we're going to make a mark. Button it up against the edge here, and another mark. Okay, we're going to set those aside, and we're going to make a mark on our mount, making sure that it's the side that we want to show. And we're going to make a mark. We're going to set our combination square for 3 inches. Let's go ahead and make a mark at 3 inches on both sides. Let's draw the line all the way across. Once we have that done, let's grab our tape measure And we're going to set the tape measure so the 2-inch mark is exactly on, and you can even use 1 inch if you want, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to use 2 inches so it's clear of this, so I can make sure I got a perfect line up on this line. And we're going to go 3/8 of an inch, and we're going to make a mark. Now, if you remember, the 3/8 of an inch is exactly where our center point is on 3/4 of an inch. So we're going to make a line across there. Let's go ahead and set our combination square for 1 inch. We're going to cross that line. We're going to flip it over, cross that line, and then we're just going to make a mark somewhere where we assume the middle is. It doesn't have to be perfect. Next, we want to take our scribe, and we're going to scribe these 3 marks that we just crossed. We're going to pilot hole from the good side out. Now we're going to grab a piece of sacrificial wood, and we're going to go ahead and pilot hole these 3 holes. And then we'll set that piece aside. Now remember, we made these marks here. This here is the base, piece D. Let's go ahead and draw the line across. Let's line up on 2 inches and go 3/8. We're going to do that on both sides. Now we can take our combination square. We're going to draw the line all the way across. And this time when we make our marks, instead of setting the combination square, let's just go ahead and grab our tape measure. We'll do 1 inch. Now what I'm doing is I'm moving it this way to line up the 6, and that way I can make a mark on the 5 for 1 inch. And then I'm just going to put a mark where I think the middle is. Now we can take our scribe, and we're going to go ahead and start these holes. After you have the holes started, go ahead and pilot hole them. Alright, so now we have the base ready. Last thing we want to prep is roof, piece A. We've got our marks. Let's draw the line across. Okay, so now that we have that line drawn, let's go ahead and set our combination square for 3/8 of an inch. And we're just going to make 3 random marks on the back side of that mark that we made. And let's set our roof aside. Now let's do the door. So when it comes to the door, we're going to want to this side. And on this, again, let's just randomize it. So we don't have to be perfect on this one either. Okay, so now that we have those marks, we're going to go ahead and scribe them, and we will now do all of our pilot holes. So we'll do our pilot holes in piece A after we scribe it, and we're going to go ahead and put our pilot holes in piece C. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our door, piece C, and we're going to line it up on this bottom line that we drew. Doesn't have to be perfect. The only reason we're doing that is because we want to make a mock measurement of the wall. So I'm going to draw a line there. Going to line this one up, and I'm going to draw a line there. Now I have a drawing of about where my wall will end. And I'm going to set my combination square, just draw a line across. Okay, so let's go ahead and set our combination square back to 3/8 of an inch. And then we're just going to make 3 random marks. And we're going to do the same on the opposite side. If you want them to be perfect, you're more than welcome to measure them all out and make sure they are all perfect. All right, so next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and scribe these 6 and pilot hole them. Okay, now if you want this to be a little bit more decorative, you're more than welcome to cut some 45s if you want. That is completely up to you, but for this I'm just showing you the assembly. Let's go ahead and grab piece D. Let's set our combination square for 3/8 of an inch. And we're going to make 3 random marks, but we want these marks below the pilot holes. So let's just measure one. Let's put one here, and let's put one here. Do the same on the opposite side. All right, so we have our marks. Let's scribe them. Once you have them scribed, go ahead and do the pilot holes. All right, so our next step is we're going to grab the mount, piece E. What we're going to do is we're going to hold it upright, and we're going to set our combination square exactly to the size of this mount. Line up the combination square against the line that we drew on the bottom below the pilot holes. We're going to take a clamp and we're going to clamp that down. Now we can grab our piece D, make sure the D is on the bottom, and we're going to line it up against the combination square. Once we have that lined up, we can drill one of the pilot holes and we will set that screw. So you can see in this instance, I went ahead and picked the one on the top. I've already got my pilot holes drilled, and I also countersunk them. Countersinking is completely up to you. So we can remove our combination square and our clamp and finish the other two pilot holes. And then we will set those two screws. All right, so now let's take one of our piece B's, a wall, and we're going to put the wall on. Make sure that the B is facing the inside of the project. And I'm just lining it up by hand. I'm going to put the force on it, drill that pilot hole. I will then set this screw. Now that I have that one, it's going to be pretty easy to go ahead and put this one on. Just do the lineup, hold it tight, and I'm going to put that screw on. Okay, so now I've sunk that screw. Now these are going to be really easy. Go ahead and pilot hole those two, and we're going to put a screw in each one of them. Okay, for our next step, let's go ahead and put the door on. So we're going to line up the door. We're going to make it flush against this piece and the base. And I'm going to go ahead and hit that pilot hole right there. And I will set that screw. Then I'm going to grab the other wall and I'm going to put it into place. I will line it up, make sure it's nice and flush. And I'm going to put my pressure on the door to hold this piece into place. I will finish this pilot hole and I'm going to screw that piece in. So now that we have that done, it's going to be fairly simple for us to put a pilot hole right there into the wall. Perfect. So just check my lining, looks good. My pilot holes, just screw it in. All right, so now it's a matter of finishing the rest of the pilot holes up to this point. So we'll put the other two on the door. Go ahead and finish the ones on the base. So now our mount is completely screwed in and our base is completely screwed in. So we have all of those screws and we have the screws on the door. The next thing we want to do before we put anything else on, take your ruler off and we're going to find the center of the door. So we'll go cross corner and cross corner. Now we have the center of that door. Go ahead and scribe it. Okay, so I just noticed an error that I will fix right now. So when I had you put the marks for the door, you will see that I actually put them on the wrong side. But this is an easy fix. So I'm going to set my combination square to measure exactly from the perch to the door. I will flip my project over, and I'm going to make 2 lines. Now I will set my combination square, and I will make a mark on that line. So now I'm going to set my tape measure, and I'm going to use 5. So from 5, I'm going to measure in 3/8 of an inch. Now I can take my combination square and mark that line. Because the door goes all the way across, I'm just going to put one here, and I'll put one here. So go ahead and scribe those, put in your pilot holes, and set these 2 screws. Alright, so we fixed that. Like I mentioned in one of the earlier videos, it's easy to hide mistakes that are not seen. So we're not going to worry about that. Alright, so our next thing, we want to attach the roof. So now to attach the roof, I'm going to use the help of a clamp. So I'm going to line it up so it's got the perfect 45-degree angle against the mount. Once I have that, I'm going to set my clamp. That way it'll help me hold it into place while I put a pilot hole in. Alright, so I got that side. Now I'm going to go ahead and push it with my thumb and set this side. Just till I can at least get 1 pilot hole in. Okay, so I got 2 screws in. I don't need my clamp to help me hold it anymore. Let's go ahead and finish the last 4 pilot holes. And we will set those screws. Alright, so there is 90% of our birdhouse. The last things we need to do are we need to drill the door, and we're also going to put 2 holes so we can mount it to a tree or a fence post, wherever you want to mount it. I'm going to switch out my bit and put my 1.5" Forstner in there. I'm going to line it up with my scribe hole and drill it in. And voila, it now has a door. The last thing I want to do is I want to put a screw hole here on the top and here on the bottom, so that way I can mount it. So I'm going to go ahead, 5.5. Half of 5.5 is 2 3/4. So I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to do the same for the back side, 2 3/4. I'm going to set my combination square for 1 inch. And I'm going to make a mark right at the tip of that point. I'm going to do the same for the back side or bottom. Make my mark, and then all you have to do is scribe those new marks and pilot hole them. So now we have our birdhouse. Our next step would be to get out your sandpaper, sand over all these sharp edges, give it a nice smooth sanding, a 150 grit, and then you need to pick a finish. You can practice your spray painting techniques, or you can go ahead and put a urethane on it. If you are going to do a urethane, make sure that it is a spar urethane. Spar is used for outdoor projects. And that's it. We have made a birdhouse. Alright, so we now have a 1-room studio apartment in a quiet neighborhood with a forest view. Use the 2 screw holes to mount this onto a tree, fence, post, or wherever you want it. This concludes episode 6 of the series. In episode 7, we will be making a bathtub caddy. For our next project, we will need one 1x12x6 common board and one 2x3x8. If your lumber store does not have 6 footers in this lumber, 8 footers will be fine, and you can have them cut it at 6 feet if needed. Also remember back in episode 3 when I had you set aside your scrap 2x4 for another project. It is time to dig that out. Grab a can of satin water-based polyurethane and some chip brushes. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments section and I will get to them as soon as I can. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified of new episodes as they become available. Gather the lumber and let's have some fun while learning.